No, I do think too many meetings are a problem. I mean, I think that's an issue, right? People have more work than they could possibly get done as it is. So you
Yeah.
don't want to add overhead onto it. But to me, you want to make the meetings productive.
So I got a couple of fundamental questions for you then. The first is, the guys at Basecamp, their book Rework is fantastic. It's one of my top books I recommend to entrepreneurs to read, because I think it's like your handbook for how to, get a successful startup venture off the ground. One of the things they talk about, though, is that this overabundance of meetings. So when I hear you say those things, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just
Right.
kind of adding on to this and making sure we're being clear as we talk about being clear. Are you a big proponent of meetings, multiple meetings? How do you make sure this gets done without spending significant time in meetings? Or is that even a bad thing in your view?
No, I do think too many meetings are a problem. I mean, I think that's an issue, right? People have more work than they could possibly get done as it is. So you don't want to add overhead onto it. But to me, you want to make the meetings productive. And so it's about having an agenda, keeping it short to the point, not a lot of BS. I mean, you want to be succinct and have an agenda that you stick to. In the world that I live in, which is project work, the meetings all add value because it's about adding new stuff to the schedule, understanding the challenges. I mean, listen, the real world happens. And so you have this beautiful plan that you built with your team that doesn't survive longer than about 24 hours.
Yeah.
Something will need to change. And we can't be changing everything every 5 minutes. We want to have one collective, okay, let's make a change. Everybody change it. Then a week later or 2 weeks later, have another change. So to me, it's having these 1 hour meetings about a project every 2 weeks. That's not adding a ton of overhead, but it's about being clear to your point. You don't want to just have meetings for no reason.
If the nature of the project only survives 24 hours and you're waiting 2 weeks between meetings, that's where I think people have the disconnect, Clint, is because I think there's so much to catch up on because it has been so far removed from their last meeting time. Or somebody wasn't there, or they were busy, or they called out sick, or whatever, right? So then they got to get caught up. And so I think we're in this perpetual state of trying to catch up, going long on meetings, over divulging or trying to cover too much, right? And so I think that's where the disconnect is. But you tell me, am I right? Am I wrong? Am I somewhere in the right map here, or is it just my own anecdotal experience?
No, I think your experience is correct. It's all a balance, right? So if you ask me, Clint, the perfect world, what would we do? We'd probably meet weekly.
Yeah.
Right. Because to your point, if we go every 2 weeks, then that's 14 days worth of bad stuff to catch up on.
Right.
But the reality is most people work on 10 projects. And so if we have weekly meetings, the overhead is just too great. So we're forced to go to every other week. But the safety that we put in place there, of course, is if we have a meeting every 2 weeks, and let's say we had the meeting yesterday, if I have a problem today, I'm not going to wait 13 more days to tell you about it. I'm going to call you and say, hey, here's the problem. And we can make the snap decision to get a small core team together just for 20 minutes to fix it. Or we can say, you know what, that's okay. Go do your thing. And we'll bring everybody up to speed in the next meeting.
We're going to talk about team building. We're going to talk about initiatives. We're going to talk about how to get things done. One of the books that I was just talking about that I read was The 12-Week Year. And a lot of what I was learning was things that honestly I hadn't been doing myself. And I'd like to consider myself somebody that actually studies a lot of these things as far as execution, hitting initiatives. It gets challenging when you have a team involved, right?